This video goes over the options you have when you're forwarding a call to a buyer. So I'm going to go ahead and open the call forwarding window here and go over how we function here. Now we have two ways to pull back calls from a buyer. If they're not answering, they're ringing only and time's out and we have to pull it back. Or if you have this press 1 to accept, it would coincide with a couple of routing types we have, or call flow types we have in the offer for press 1 to accept a call and pressed 1 too slowly. In case they were racing against another buyer and someone beat them to the punch, they would hear press 1 too slowly. That's for press 1 to accept. But those are both ways we would recall a call we're trying to give to a buyer back and give it to another buyer. Now the ring timeout, you want that number to be as low as possible. A good number is like 15 seconds. And that just means if they don't answer the phone, we're going to stop trying them and pull it back and give it to another buyer. Now there are some caveats to that. If it's your only buyer on an offer, leave it at 60 seconds. If you're forwarding to something like Vonage, just keep in mind that the way that system works is if they don't have a greeting on the campaign on Vonage, it sits there and ignores the incoming call from consumers or other platforms like TrackDrive, and then eventually we'll pick up our call when the forward to number answers the call. Then it bridges the two calls together. So you might need a little bit longer of time if you're forwarding it to a phone system that doesn't answer our call until the agent or the forward to number is actually answering as well. And in the DTMF tones, that's just how you would bypass someone's IVR. So let's say this buyer had it set up that 1 is set for sales, 2 is for support, 3 is for billing, 5 is for any other any other questions, whatever their IVR is, but you're wanting to press 1 for the consumer. We do that right here. Now the best way to see how long you have to wait before you can press buttons is to call the buyer's number directly, start pressing the button you want, and see how long it takes for it to accept that. Sometimes they make the message play out, sometimes they say at least wait 2.5 seconds, whatever. So let's say I figured out that I could press 1 after 2.5 seconds. So I would do wait 1, and that's going to be wait 2 full seconds and a half seconds, then I can press the 1. And I could even wait some more and do caller zip for them. So if I did wait caller zip, it would then put in the zip code too after we got past that. So that's what's going on here, is that I can do the keystrokes that the consumer would have to do, but I don't want them to do that. Now what are they going to hear while we're doing that? That's in the offer itself we have forwarding to buyer music. Our default music is just a ringing sound, so the consumer thinks the music that's playing is just ringing noise, a ringing sounds like you'd call a phone. However, you can replace that with customer retention. Like if you're doing press 1 to accept and you're giving the buyer 2 minutes to press 1 to get it, you don't want them here ringing that whole time. You'd probably want to put in forward to buyer music in the offer so that you replace our ringing sound with some kind of customer retention. Hey, we're the best student loan consolidation company in the world. Hang in there, an agent will be with you right away. That type of stuff. Okay, so that's what that is. Now record calls, we do have an option in the offer for record calls. That's for all buyers. So if you have yes in there, you can toggle it off for certain buyers here. If you have it no in the offer, this doesn't matter in the buyer record. It's not going to record for any of the buyers on the offer if you turn it off in the offer. This checkbox is for when you have it on in the offer and you don't want to record for a buyer. I personally would always record buyers' calls unless it's illegal to do so. If they're just requesting that you don't do it but you really want it for quality assurance reasons, I would leave recordings on and just not show them their recording button on their login. But I would never go against a customer's words unless they're just saying don't record my calls because I don't want you to. Okay, so the press 1 to accept we kind of went over already. That would just be that when we're forwarding to the buyer, we're going to be whispering to him, the consumer can't hear it, that there's a caller on the line, press 1 to accept that call. And then sync to TrackDrive conversion. I always leave that on no matter what. If the buyer's not on TrackDrive, this does nothing. If the buyer's on TrackDrive, it won't convert you on this side as a traffic source for him unless he converts you as a traffic source on his side, because you don't want to sit there and think he owes you money when he says, well, I couldn't convert you. Another traffic source already sent that caller to me and you're the second copy, so I'm not paying you. So that's what sync to TrackDrive does. Now forwarding caller ID type, you can send in the real caller ID, which is standard. So because everyone tracks your conversions and refers to the consumers that we're forwarding by their caller ID, and that's how they check for doofs and whatnot. However, if you're doing simul dial, if you have a buyer group that's simul dial and you're having people press 1 to accept, you may not want to show all the buyers the caller ID. So in that situation, you would send a fake caller ID. And for America, what that would be is the right area code, the right prefix, but the suffix would not be the caller suffix, so they couldn't call that caller back. The other thing you can do, and this still happens, is send a single TrackDrive phone number at the buyer. Sometimes they don't really even have phone systems, so the only way they can track the calls from you is because you send a consistently the same caller ID to them, and you would just pick a number from your TrackDrive inventory and say, I'm sending that number as my number. But typically, you are indeed working with just sending the real caller ID to the buyer, because that's how the whole world works in this industry. Now, these extra tokens here, I already showed you under conversion settings on another video that I could be setting extra tokens because this conversion happened, and I need these extra tokens for the webhook to like Cake or Linktrust or Has Offers, whatever. That's because the conversion happened. Now, if you need extra tokens because the buyer converted, like on Cake, they'd have the buyer contract ID. I wouldn't go put the contract ID in every single conversion. I wouldn't have to. Down here, these extra tokens for your webhooks are designed that this buyer took the call, and I need this set every time this buyer takes the call. So that is what call forwarding is all about in TrackDrive version 2.1.